Welcome to another episode of La Ventanita. I'm your host, Carlos Frías, the food editor at the Miami Herald, and I'm with, as every week, Amy Reyes, the editor of Miami.com. What's up, Amy?
Hello, how you doing, Carlos?
I'm doing good. This is like an exciting week, like a
Oh my
week where
God,
a lot of
so
things
much
went on.
happening.
There's too much almost happening
Yeah,
going on this
almost too
week
much happening.
because obviously this is the week of the South Beach Food and Wine Festival.
Yeah, it's
Whether
like the
people
Super Bowl of food.
right, exactly. That's a great way to put it. It's the Super Bowl of food. And it happens in our backyard every year. It's the largest food festival in the country, and so we have like all these celebrity chefs and local chefs kind of meeting up in South Beach to create kind of one-off events, uh, big giant events under the tents outdoors, sit down, more intimate dinners, and I mean, it seems like everybody in the world is already in South Florida because of the way that
But
we're
now
open
they're
to the
here
world.
to eat some food.
Yes, let's just corral them all
Yeah,
into
put
the
them in some
beach.
tents and stuff them full of food.
Right. Everybody go do your groceries and anything you got to do, go do it this weekend because everybody's going to be on the beach.
Exactly. That's where they're eating.
So we got a lot to talk about. Obviously the South Beach Food and Wine Festival. We'll talk about that after the show, after we're done with our guests. Also the James Beard Awards announced their semifinalists, and I want to say there are 11 different people honored in it. So that'll be interesting to talk about. There's a couple faces there that we haven't seen in a few years. Mike Parolo over at Macalina, which is nice to see that because I think that guy does incredible
Yeah,
stuff
Miami
on the
repped
beach.
really hard this year. Like Miami has a lot of names on the nominations.
Yeah, it's nice to see because I think it's well deserved. And the thing that's kind of kept me busy like the last few days is the story of the Hialeah KFC, which is the
Oh my gosh.
I know
Yeah,
the
no, it
only
all started with the
KFC.
question. It started with the question, why can't you get flan at the KFC in Hialeah anymore? And the answer is very sad.
It's very sad. I mean, it had this great distinction that it was the only KFC in the world that baked its own flan in house, and it was made by an immigrant chef from Cuba in the '60s, and it had been quietly been made for something like 45 years.
45 years. Yeah.
That's
No,
crazy.
that's
They've been making that
crazy.
flan longer than most people have been alive.
Exactly.
So that's
No,
that.
so
So, but it's gone now for a sad reason. But we'll get into the details of that. And if there's time left, we'll talk about Smoke and Dough, which is a
yeah, we really need to get
fantastic.
into smoke and dough because all of my friends from Kendall really want to hear your hot take on that new barbecue place out in West Kendall.
My hot take, or just at the beginning, to drop it at the beginning, is that it is easily now one of the best new restaurants in Miami, barbecue or bar none. Like really, they are doing something special and exceptional that you're not seeing. I would say maybe with the exception of Drinking Pig, which is a little pop up on a scale that you're really not seeing anywhere else in Miami. So I'm very excited
So it's
about it.
basically the herald of the culinary renaissance taking place in Kendall, Florida right now.
I mean, that's it. We're just gonna have an outpost. Your house is gonna be the new bureau, the new Herald headquarters because
And
everything
you can
food
just
related.
review Kendall restaurants every day.
That's it. We're just like the Kendall Herald now when it comes
Right.
to food. But first, we have a really great guest today. Um, a guy that I love talking to because he is funny and he's got an interesting take on just about everything. And he's one of the coolest guys who's very down to earth. And that's Ryan Sentz. So Ryan Sentz was a newspaper ad salesman until the day he walked into his boss's office and told him that he was quitting to brew beer. That became a brewery that he called something, a little place he called Funky Buddha. It started as a strip mall brewery in Boca Raton, and he fused these culinary flavors like maple bacon, blueberry cobbler, blood oranges, even guava pastelitos into beer. And it turned at one point into the fastest growing brewery in Florida, which he eventually sold, not for a small sum of money. So anyway, I want to treat this episode a little bit like a how I built this, right? Kind of what inspired Ryan to make such unique beers, all the way through the selling the brewery, but really just getting his takes, his terrible food takes, what food made great beer, what food made terrible beer. So we're gonna welcome him to the show. What's up, Ryan?
Hey guys.
Good to see you, man.
Good to see you guys as well.
Before we start, we just need to let you know that one of our coworkers is angry with you because you did make some beer using mangoes, and she hates mangoes, and it's her least beloved fruit. She complains about it every year, and so
Who hates
she's
mangoes?
Connie Ogle, our
Oh,
coworker Connie. She hates mangoes, and so
send her a gift basket.
you should definitely
Just a
send her
giant pile of
all
nice
the mango beer.
ripe mangoes. And the funny part is she's got a mango tree in her yard, doesn't she?
No, she would
No?
never. No,
Oh, I
she would
thought she had
never.
a
Are you
tree in her
kidding?
yard.
That's an act of aggression.
We should plant one in her yard.
We should.
I think it might honestly be the best fruit, other than being a little bit of a pain to peel and to eat. I love mango. I have a mango tree. So
Yeah, I have several, and they're
Of course you have a mango tree. Of course you, because we're in South Florida. I don't have a mango tree because my neighbor 2 houses down has an enormous mango tree. And so I have a mango tree.
it means
That's
you
how
have a
that
mango.
works.
Yeah.
well, as long as you're friends with them.
Yeah.
For sure. So Ryan, kind of start us a little bit back at the beginning. Like, where are you from? You're from originally from Boca Raton, right? What's your background?
Originally from California, but just as a baby. So my family was out there, moved out to Florida when I was 6 months old. And I've been in Coral Springs actually since I was a baby. So 45. So since 1977, we were in Coral Springs. And now I'm back in Parkland. So bounced around living throughout South Florida, anywhere from Boynton, Del Rey, Boca, like you said, and now back to Parkland, where I grew up.
Cool. So you grew up, a Dolphins fan.
Yeah.
You became a Heat fan, I'm sure.
Sure.
I know
Yeah.
you're a hockey fan now. Certainly because they sell your beer there, which is nice.
That, I'll be the first to admit that's what got me into growing up in Florida. You don't follow hockey as much as you do other sports. So I wasn't, but I love soccer. So I don't think there's a huge difference as far as, there's not a lot of scoring. It's about setting up plays. It's the anticipation. But it's quickly become my second favorite sport. I love it. I love hockey.
Wait, what's your favorite sport?
Miami Dolphins football, without question.
All right.
Regardless of everything, it's my favorite.
Yeah, even though we know the Dolphins make us cry.
Yes, correct. Every year.
So take me back to the beginning. We have a friend in common, Jake Klein, who used to be one of the entertainment editors at the Sun Sentinel. He's a good buddy, and he used to be the editor at CityLink, where you were an newspaper ad salesman.
Newspaper ad salesman, yeah. So
how did you go from that guy, and how'd that conversation go? Like, I'm going to give up this fantastic life in newspaper ad sales.
Yeah, you probably worked in ad sales, like at the point when ad sales was like pretty lucrative, right?
I definitely took a pay cut leaving to start a business for sure. I was doing well. CityLink was booming. I was part of the forum and selling forum products. And I liked what I did. I liked the people that I worked with. Loved, Sun Sentinel. It was, I didn't love the idea. I wasn't a sales guy per se, but I liked the idea of that you get in what you put in, you work hard, you're going to get rewarded for it. And what kind of turned me around to liking sales is that I actually believed in what I sold, because I talked to the people that we sold advertising to, and they would tell me, yeah, we got 30, coupons in from your paper this week, or, people, the phone's ringing off the hook. So it was easy at that point. So I did well. I did really well. And while you were working at the Herald, were you just brewing beer in your bathroom? Like, where does one, like, as a hobby, brew beer? Yeah. I mean, in the, wherever, the kitchen, the bathroom. But yeah, I mean, I've been brewing since the 90s, 5 gallons at a time. Not all the time, but I would. I brewed. I started with the Mr. Beer kit. And I think that might have been less than 5 gallons. But yeah, and I was doing that. And one of my clients at CityLink happened to own a small place called R&R Tea Bar and the Funky Buddha Lounge. And I always wanted to own my own business. I was an entrepreneur and saw an opportunity, wanted to sell it. And it was a tea and a hookah bar mostly. And, I was a craft beer fan. I was brewing. So I purchased that from him, small place, 700 square feet. And there was a period where I was doing both. I worked during the day doing sales, and then come home and then go work at night at the lounge. And I did that for geez, maybe 6-9 months, and that was it was brutal. And then when I finally just made the decision, I said, this is what I want to do. I think there's an opportunity here, at least to make enough to live and be happy, and that was it.
And all of this was happening, and you hadn't turned the place into a brewery yet. It was just a lounge, right?
It was just a lounge. So I immediately at least brought in like craft beer, and I brought in kegerators. But again, it was 700 square feet. There was no room to brew even 5 gallons. So we quickly kind of got popular for being a craft beer bar, mostly in part because there wasn't a lot of craft beer bars back then. There was maybe Yard House was down here. But other than that, there wasn't a whole lot of places you can go. And we offered a lot of crazy selections. And it was a passion of mine. It was something I enjoyed doing. So I just kind of filled my needs by bringing them in. And that we did really well. We were getting acclaim for being a good beer bar. So the opportunity presented itself to move down the plaza, which to a spot 3 times the size. Still not big, but 2,000 square feet. And I just thought, why not add a small system? And it wasn't because I thought I was eventually going to open up a brewery. I just think, well, we sell craft beer. I brew. I had a friend that I patterned my system after in Tequesta called Corner Cafe. Eventually became Tequesta Beer Company. And started brewing beer, and the rest is history.
Well, take me back. Take me back, because I want to know, like, what was the first beer you ever brewed where people were like, oh, this isn't terrible. Oh, like this is the one. Like what you were doing before, we were just being nice. Like, How long did it take you to get to a point where you're making beer in your bathtub at the house where people were like, oh, he's actually doing something?
Yeah. I mean, so when you're brewing beer, even at home, I think people are just so happy to drink beer that you give them. They tell you that, oh, this is so good, even though it's not. And sometimes it is. So I would say right away we were doing beers that were palatable, that people would drink. We certainly got better and grew and started learning. But when I think maybe what you're referring to, like when there started to be more of a buzz about it, and other than just brewing beers, is when we started kind of doing little off-kilter stuff, so something a little different. The original Floridian, for instance, was made with orange zest and vanilla beans that we were hand scraping and putting into the boil. So it was something a little bit different. And at that point, no one was doing that. There was a handful of breweries that I liked, namely like Southern Tier in New York, that were doing beers I think it's called chocolate or chocolat, that actually tasted like chocolate. And so I gravitated towards that. I said, that's what I want to do. That this is delicious, and no one else is doing it, which was crazy to me. So that's what we did.
Ryan, what gave you the idea to try something like that, to try something that to other people, it just wasn't being done? I mean, I think right now, if you're just getting into craft beers and stuff, it's hard to imagine a world where you couldn't get, a chocolate porter or something like that. But you were doing
mango,
things
guava,
like mango habanero beer. Like I had never had anything like that, and it blew my mind. It was like some mangoes that you got from a neighbor, right?
Yeah. We named that beer Bob's Backyard because it was a good customer named Bob that came in and brought us mangoes. We said, all right, we're making a mango beer. And just that week earlier, I went to a Mexican restaurant, and they gave me they gave me on the way out, I grabbed a piece of candy, and it was a mango habanero candy, which I never had those flavors together. So that was the impetus. It was just like, okay, if that tastes good, why wouldn't it taste good as a beer? And I guess, what gave me the luxury to do those things is, one, I was brewing 30, 35 gallons at a time. So it wasn't a huge risk, right? If it was bad, we were pouring 35 gallons. It's a bigger risk back then, that it hurt. But it wasn't like now today, if we do a bad beer and we pour 900 gallons or more down the drain. And it was a passion project. I did it because I wanted it. It was a beer that I would want to drink. So I thought, okay, there's going to be more people like me. And, let's do this. Let's try it. Why continue to make IPAs and pale ales and just those things? Not that there's not a place.
Is there a favorite kind of food that you have that has that kind of complex flavors? Because I imagine when you start creating beer that have complex flavors, blood orange, for instance, things like that, is there a kind of cuisine that you gravitated to, like, I don't know, Thai food or Mexican food, is there something that you even gravitate to today because you like the different things they mix up in it?
No, because I don't think I gravitate, even eating, I don't gravitate to any one particular style of food. I kind of look for me, that's the most fun, is looking for inspiration and trying different cuisines and seeing how it might work. And you don't necessarily want to do something for the sake of being weird and just putting out a beer. No, I'm going to make a steak and potatoes beer. That's good. And not that we haven't done some beers that were huge misses. I always tell how I try to do a Bloody Mary beer. And in my head, it tasted delicious. So I was using tomatoes.
Oh my God. But you know what? In the Dominican Republic, they drink this thing called, they put this stuff called clamato.
Yeah, like a clamato
beer in their Presidente. And it's actually pretty good. It's like,
that's good. What I did was terrible. Oh. It was undrinkable. It was gross. And I tried to, it was like, and that's not the only one. We've done a bunch like that. But you try different things, and that's the fun part of cooking or doing whatever. So you look for balance in flavors, you look for unique flavors, you look how flavors interact with each other. And to me, I'm a sponge, so I'm going online and I'm looking at if I'm introduced to a new fruit, I want to know all about it, and then I want to look about what might complement it or what and then you start looking at the base of the beer and you say, okay, which base, whether it be an IPA or a lager or a porter, what's going to be the most symbiotic with the flavors that you're going for. So to me, that's what I still to this day have the most passion for.
How much do you still create? I know because a few years back you sold the brewery, your stake in the brewery, but you still you retain basically daily management and control. So how much do you like
every day?
Really?
Every day, yeah. Whether it's beer flavors or working on new seltzers or other projects that we're doing, I don't think that a day goes by where I'm not tinkering or certainly researching something that we might do.
You have this, you created this thing that was totally a passion project. Like, your own words, it was going to be this brew pub for you and your family. This was the thing that you wanted to do. But then at some point you kind of stepped it up to the next level. You went in on an enormous brewery and you brought in your brother, right? Like
yep.
to kind of expand that. Why do that? Like, what was the interest in doing something like that?
So, when we were doing it, again, 30 gallons at a time, 40 gallons at a time, because we were doing something pretty unique, we started getting invited to festivals all over the country and then all over the world. And we were going to these festivals, and no one had ever heard of Funky Buddha. Why would they? But they would see our lineup. And before they even tasted our beer, for better or for worse, we had the longest line by far, because you can go and try, I've tried this, and maybe they'll have a double IPA, which would have been crazy back then. But then there was this weirdo doing an apple pie beer, and they're going to get in line for that. So that kind of got me more interested in thinking, okay, this could actually potentially be something bigger. We did something called the Extreme Beer Fest, which is something I used to do just as a fan. It's one of my favorite beer festivals up in Boston from the guys that own Beer Advocate. And we went there again. From being invited to that, for being a fan, was already crazy enough. We went there in year one. We had the longest line, and I mean, it blew my mind. So I told my brother, who him and I always wanted to. He's an entrepreneur as well. He ran his own businesses. Him and I always wanted to do something together. I told him, I said, you got to come with me next year. I said, it's probably not going to be the same because they're going to be over us, but you have to see this and just come and have fun. And he did, and same thing. And we were, the talk of the brewery, and here these guys make, and they didn't know we were doing 40 gallons at a time. They just thought we were a brewery in Florida that they hadn't heard of. So it was largely him that kind of said, okay, we need to do something bigger. This is you're wasting your time. And I was happy and not necessarily content doing what I was doing, but I love the idea of that next challenge and saying, okay. And there wasn't any production breweries in South Florida. There was some in West Palm, I believe, or maybe Palm Beach, certainly none in Miami that were actually producing and bottling and getting out to the public. So it was right place, right time, and a push, a gentle nudge. And he came on and yeah.
Okay. So now that you have people behind, you have corporate money behind it, do you feel like more free to do more creative stuff now that you basically, money's not a problem? So do you feel more free to do creative stuff, or do you feel like there are people like, no, we need to find something that's palatable for more, for more people, like it's more of a more of a taste that everybody will like. Like, how do you feel like being part of a bigger corporation has affected the creative process?
So awesome question. So yes, so you do have, I mean, obviously when you sell and you're no longer making the big giant decisions, you have to take other people in their direction in mind. And even just as we were growing the business, we realized that it was going to be beers like Hop Gun and Floridian, Vibe in our lager, that were going to keep the lights on and the doors open.
Are those the beers that are more like Presidente and like the ones that I would drink at a poolside?
Vibin is one that you'll like, and truth be told, that's the one I drink now. I'm not grabbing a peanut butter and jelly beer that we make and having that at dinner. I'm having a Vibin or a Hop Gun or a Floridian. But what drives excitement and what keeps me excited and is doing new flavors and new things. So as far as Constellation coming on, they've been great since the beginning. They've never told me a single time, this is what we want you to make, or these are your limitations. They purchased us for us to continue to do and what we were doing and what kind of made people excited for us. And as far as, money and what we spend, that hasn't changed. I used to make my brother nauseous about what I would spend on ingredients, and he would freak out like, you spend how much on raspberries? So I don't have to deal with that anymore. But yeah, I mean, we have access to barrels that we might not have had access to before, but how we approach beer has not changed a single bit.
I think one of the most interesting things about your business is something that happens with a lot of small businesses when they grow, and that are successful when they grow. And that is they have one person who focuses on creative and one person who really focuses on the business side. Yeah. And I think you and your brother were like that. Casey is like I will be the bean counter. I'll be the bad guy. And you get to be the good guy, mad scientist.
Oh yeah. Definitely the bad guy.
And you've told that raspberry story before, like how there's sometimes you want to create a thing that's going to be prohibitively expensive, and your brother tries to talk you down off the ledge. What was that like?
It sticks in my head because I just remember at that time we shared an office, and I hadn't told him. He just was reading the invoice, and it was something I tried to sneak by, and he was like, at the time he was $4,000 or something. He's like, he's throwing up in his mouth, and I'm just trust me. These are the things we do. And we need to continue to do in order to differentiate ourselves and make it, and we'll get the money back. But I, definitely want to be clear that, so you're absolutely right. And I tell people that all the time that are looking to get into, whether it's this business or anything else, like you can't just be all passion and creativity and get into this and succeed, nor can you just be a really good business person. And while it's, Casey and I are super complimentary, like there's been 20 other people that literally we wouldn't be where we are today if we didn't have them. My wife, we had a marketing director, John Lynn, Ross, my original partner at the lounge, Jim Bast, who like kind of got us going. There's so many things that have to click and work for you to be lucky enough to say, okay, we've been a success. We've done well.
So how did the beer snob community react to you when you guys got this big infusion from this company, when you got bought by a larger company? Were the beer snobs like, oh, how dare they? Or were they like,
honest? Don't
be honest. Were they, because beer snobs
punch pulling
like,
thing? Because
they seem like real like real loud.
That's nice of you to say loud. Yeah, they hated us. They absolutely hated us. They thankfully, we were one of the last big breweries to sell big. We were one of the last big acquisitions. So they had somewhat gotten used to it, and people were kind of throwing up their hands. And, to a certain point, I get it. You don't want someone that you kind of followed from the beginning. There's a sense of like, oh, we're going to lose them because they're going to get too big and everyone's going to like them like the small band that you like. And there's also the sense that, Constellation bought them. Now they're only going to make Mexican beers with lime in it. And I just kept telling people, and no one believed me. I said, just trust us. Nothing's going to change. Literally nothing. I'm not leaving. My brother's not leaving. The direction's not leaving. It's changing. But yes, we got a ton of hate, and we expected it. It's something that kept me up. It was, it was a very bittersweet day when we sold. I'll just say that.
It's a little bit of selfishness, though. I mean, to say that, like, it's like asking a writer to write alone in his room and just show his printed papers to his 10 friends.
Yeah.
Well, it's
versus
like if you have
versus
a
wanting
blog,
that
if you have a
person.
blog and a company a book company wants to publish your blog, like meanwhile you're posting your blog for the internet to see who likes it, and then somebody comes along and wants to pay you for your creativity, like,
And you can keep doing it. And
you can keep doing it.
So to me, I don't want to say it was a no-brainer, but it certainly made it easier. My similar this week, my friend told me there's a band that we both love called War on Drugs, and they're coming to into Fort Lauderdale. And he said, "Oh God, I hope no one shows up." So we like, you're a big fan, So at the same time, like, yeah, you're right. I don't want to be like this.
His favorite band to feel like a bunch of scrubs just so that he can enjoy it by himself.
I want to be the only one there.
It reminds you of that old Yogi Berra quote where it's like nobody goes there anymore. It's too crowded.
Yeah, that's what my grandfather told me when we were starting to get hate. When we were starting, people were not liking us, and no one goes there anymore. They're too crowded. I love that.
What's funny is that I think what you guys growing certainly. I mean, after the sale too is that you can get Funky Buddha beer, like even the stuff that everybody used to look forward to, right? Like the Last Snow, which is this coconut chocolate porter, right? Which was everybody anticipated in this bottle, and people tripped over, and you were kind of left sometimes without being able to get the beer. Now you can get it in a can across the country, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that kind of merit. I think that warrants the question. Like, people like the beer, right? But like, people also like the event of like lining up outside the brewery to see who else likes it, so they could like narrow down their. They could be like, oh, these are my people. Like my people are the people who would wait in line for a beer to be launched.
They also like the idea of them trying a beer that maybe only 100 bottles were made or 1,000 bottles were made, and be able to talk about it. That's a huge part of it. That the same beer that we had that was very popular, that had lines, as soon as it was made available, those people didn't even want it.
You mean once you could buy it in a store, they were like, nah, I'm not.
Yeah. Thankfully, other people did. So it's, it was less popular, but we sold more. And so people were liking it, but you didn't get the people that were the collectors or the traders or the tickers, as we call them, the people that wanted to rate 4,000 beers or 10,000 beers.
The influencers.
Yes.
The beer influencers.
Yeah. I mean, there's something like that in everything, right? Like, the women who want the one new purse that came out that's got the stitching that's a different color, or the watch nerds that the second hand is a round instead of a little pointy arrow. Like, there's always a group of connoisseurs that want to be, part of that exclusive inside.
I'm not the only one. Yeah.
Yeah. So let me ask you, what kind of beers are you into today? Because I feel like craft beer drinkers went like this. They were like, I hate beer, I hate beer, I hate beer. And then I had a Sierra Nevada.
Yep.
And then I had porters, and then I had beers that taste like food, sour beers.
Yep.
And then like back to like terrible beer. And then it works your way back to just having an uncomplicated, lager with dinner or something like that.
Yeah.
So,
people are embarrassed to hand me, like, I'll go to a party and they'll go, all we have is, this macro. And I'm like, I like that beer. It's fine. It's delicious. Yeah, you're 100% right. That's how it starts. So it's like not getting into beer. And then for me, it was Newcastle was like, oh my God, beer can taste differently. And then Sierra Pale Ale and Sierra Celebration, and then Belgians, and then porters, and then anything high gravity, 12%, 14%, and then I got heartburn from sours. So sours were never hugely my thing. And now all I want is lagers and pale ales and, easy drinking beers. And I'll sip everything that people want me to try. But if I'm enjoying a beer, I'm outside. I'm a lager guy.
So play Cicerone for Amy, who I think only likes like the yellow fizzy beer that you would have on the beach when it's extra
I'll tell you
cold.
what beer I'll drink, okay? This is why I kept my mouth shut when you guys talk too much. When you get too into the weeds, I just shut up. But I'll drink Presidente because I lived in the Dominican Republic for a few years. So like that, I like that. That beer's just like grandfathered in.
Yeah.
And I like Stella. I'll drink Stella. I don't even really like super love Heineken. If I could have a Stella, I'd rather drink a Stella. And then honestly, if I'm eating tacos, I'll have a Corona. Like this is my beer menu.
There's nothing wrong with that. Taste is subjective. I guarantee you like some food that I think is disgusting.
For sure.
Or think that is unpalatable to me. Or, some people are anti-ketchup, and some people, even that whole argument, it's like, oh my God, he used ketchup on his perfect steak. It's like, who cares? Who cares how other people do what they do?
As a beer dum-dum, what is it that people look down upon about any beer that I would pick? Like what is it about a something super basic, like maybe a Corona, that somebody who's a beer snob would be like, is it the ingredients? Is it cheaply made, or is it the process, or is it just because everybody can get it? Is it basic? Like, what is it?
Well, don't use Corona. Corona is a perfect beer. Don't use that.
I'm just saying, because
beat the golden calf, Amy.
It is a good beer. I'll drink Corona, especially with a burger or with tacos. Like, what else? And it has to be super cold. In the DR, they have these special refrigerators that they store their Presidente in, so that they'll be like all white on the outside.
Yeah, ice cold. You know why they do that?
Vestida de novia.
Yeah, you don't taste it. The colder something is, it's like frosted. Like a beer nerd will hate if you serve it to him in a frosted mug.
Oh my God! You just ruined Presidente for me.
No, it shouldn't, because I love ice cold beer. It's so refreshing, but I'm not drinking it for the quality of the beer per se, versus just enjoying a beer. And I think there's a time and place for those things. And so what people will knock, I think it's just preference. And me in particular, I won't drink a Corona in a clear bottle, but I love Corona cans. I prefer Modelo over Corona. I can't stand Heineken because of the green bottle. There is something about what the light does to those beers, whether it's a clear bottle. And that's why you see most craft and a lot of other breweries will go to dark bottles or cans. But I think that's what they'll knock, or they'll just say, oh, your palate hasn't evolved. But I mean, I'll eat a Philly cheesesteak with Cheese Whiz, and that's delicious.
Yeah, and you'll have it, and it's good, and everybody's happy.
So what's your comfort food, Ryan? Like, if obviously, I'm curious as to where you splurge. Like, if you have a real nice night out that you want to go out, with the missus. But what's your daily comfort food?
3 kids. We're not going out for nice food. We don't do that. We a lot of Uber Eats. My Uber Eats bill is insane. I love a good steakhouse. I love sushi. I'm jealous. We were talking earlier, just the amount of restaurants you guys have in Miami. We don't have the food culture and the options that you guys have there. So I'm less adventurous on moving out and trying new things. When I travel, I'm the first one to going on and looking for the best restaurant in that area. Comfort food to me, my wife's Brazilian, so I love rice and beans. But yeah, I'm not picky. I like good food.
Do you have a food take that people are on you about? Well, what's your worst food take?
My worst food take?
You had mentioned ketchup on steak, and if you advocated for that, I'd be like, that's a pretty bad food take.
That's a really bad food.
I'm gonna assume that's not yours.
I don't do it, but I'll allow it. I do. I cringe when people do their steaks well done too, just because, especially a good steak. But
yeah, yikes.
It doesn't matter. I think I have a perfect palate, so I don't think I have a bad food take. Yeah, I don't know. I gotta think. I have arguments a lot with Mark Hawkman from 560 because I think he's got the worst food takes in the history of man. Our argument is he loves cookie cake, and I said it's not a cake. It's a cookie shaped like a cake. I mean, you might as well call pizza a cake just because it's the same shape. And he says ice cream cake is the worst, and I said that's absolutely false. Ice cream cake is the best. So I don't have any. I can't give you a hot take. I have all good takes.
I think Mark Hawkman goes out of his way to he's a provocateur. He's a bad take food provocateur. So
well, what's a good beer to pair with breakfast? What goes well with eggs?
Maple bacon coffee porter, man.
There it is. Yeah. I mean, yes, coffee beers are great for breakfast. It's funny that you mentioned that. My chef has been getting on me because I've been telling him for years I'm going to work on a mimosa beer. Tried it, also bad. But yeah, I'd say nice coffee beers are good in the morning.
Amy, if you've not had this beer, I know, but it's called maple bacon coffee porter, and those are the 3 flavors that you taste in it. And it's you have it not ice cold, not hot like you would have coffee, but if you had that with waffles, with kind of brunch chicken and waffles and that maple bacon coffee
I really
porter.
think I need to have this because, and I know I've been seeing, like I know people lined up for this beer, and just on paper, to me, this sounds like something that I would probably just be like, oh my God, what is happening right now? If I drink it. Like, it just sounds like there's too much going on. Like, how could I possibly enjoy this? But I would be open to trying it.
Well, you should have one at your house in 25 minutes. That's what they told me it would be delivered.
God.
You put that in there. I put that maple bacon in the pack for you. So.
Yeah,
All
and every year, I love that every year there's a special beer that you brew, and this goes out to your heart of being a South Florida guy.
Yeah.
You brew a beer called Undefeated Saison, which I'm holding up for the camera, and my awesome ball lighting here doesn't show it off very well, but Undefeated Saison, it's a beer that you brew in honor of the Miami Dolphins, because the Miami Dolphins have a tradition where the only team to be undefeated all the way through the Super Bowl was the 72 Miami Dolphins, and every time a team lost, the last undefeated team lost in the NFL, they would crack open a bottle of champagne. So you did a beer in that honor. Tell why was that like that? How did that become a thing that you were interested in doing and a thing you were interested in honoring?
So the name came first, and that was from I love to take credit for that because I love the name, but it was we had a brewer named Morgan back in the lounge days, and it was just talking about saisons, and he said, we got to do an undefeated saison. And then I was like, oh, we're doing that. And then the idea came is like, why can't we change flip it around, change the tradition to where, they're opening up, they always open up the champagne. Why can't we change it to where they're opening up our beer? And so we built it around we're not going to release it until the last team loses. And it's going to be made similar to a champagne. So we age it in white wine barrels. We use champagne yeast. We use grape must, Pinot, and I forgot the other grape must that we use. So we try to make it, and the one that you have right now drinks very much like a white wine or a champagne, but I think more like a white wine. We started this tradition, and then what we do is, so for instance, last year, I believe it was Green Bay. Green Bay beat some team that they were the last team. So what we do is we also send a bottle to the coach to thank him for keeping the tradition alive. My brother and I sign it. We send it to him. We ask him to send it back. So, and all but one coach, I won't put him on blast, have sent it back over the years. But this year was Matt LaFleur from Green Bay, sent it back, saying go Pack, and right on there.
That is I think it's terrible that one guy didn't play ball, and I can only guess who it is, but I'm just gonna guess inside my head. I would think it's Bill Belichick.
I would tell you Bill Belichick because I wouldn't mind putting him out there, but no, it's not Belichick.
You don't.
I wouldn't think Belichick.
Oh, okay. So it's somebody more obscure then, which is okay. If it's Bill Belichick, you'll rake him over the coals, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But we did that, and it's been a fun tradition. And next year,
that actually sounds good. I would drink that, Carlos.
See,
that sounds like it sounds wine-ish, and I can get into that.
Do you like white wine?
I'll drink champagne. I like champagne, and I'll drink Prosecco. I'm not like a huge white wine drinker. I like 3 different grapes, but
gotcha.
Yeah, because I get that headache, right here.
Yep. This one doesn't have headaches.
Huh? No headaches.
No.
Amy also has what we affectionately call white girl stomach.
Yes.
So her eyes. She's very interested in eating all the new food, and then she pays for it.
Things happen.
Okay. All right. A bottle of that coming as well, maybe. So.
Mm-hmm.
Look at that.
You've hit all
the good stuff.
Nice.
I got to wait outside for the UPS guy.
I'm just going to stand there where is he?
I waited for the knock at the door, and by the time I ran out there, UPS guy had left, and he took.
Well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to drink this on Sunday because this Saturday I have my 100-mile bike ride. I'm doing the Dolphins Cancer Challenge, and so I'm trying to be a good girl this week. I will have all of this Saturday evening after.
We've done that the last couple of years. We've never done the 100-mile. I think it was 25 that we did, which is enough. 100 miles is awesome that you're doing that. That's from the Keys, isn't it?
It goes everywhere. It starts at the Hard Rock and it goes everywhere.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So what has your beer celebrity gotten you in the world of sports? Like you get tickets to anything you want to go to now, right? You get to the Dolphins games now.
We pay for our season tickets like anyone else, and when we sold, we were able to buy season tickets. So that's been good. No, I mean, no, we've met a lot of cool people. That's been one of the more fun parts about getting into the business, because we're in a fun business to begin with. People, it's a social. People like drinking beer, and getting to do stuff with the Panthers. So yeah, we've been very lucky.
And the Dolphins, like their CEO or something, had a guy that was like a big craft beer guy, so he wanted to make that part of the stadium, right? If I remember, correctly.
They did. I mean, they've done a complete. I don't know how often you go to games, but they've done a complete renovation there as far as the food that they offer. I mean, really cool chefs have gone in there, and they embrace craft beer. So we've been in the stadium for a couple of years now. Really supported.
Well, listen, we've had a great time talking with you, but before we let you go, we got to ask you to play our weekly game. We do a Kiss, Marry, Kill. All right, so usually we'll ask folks to pick 3 foods that that are popular with them, and we'll ask you to
and
kiss
this almost
one.
Feels appropriate at this point because your beer sounds like food, essentially.
Am I really kissing it, or am I mentally doing what the original is?
You're gonna kiss it or marry it or kill it.
This is the PG version.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we're gonna call it Kiss, Marry, Kill.
Gotcha. Got it.
So let's say maple bacon coffee porter, last snow, and no crusts. So for the folks at home, the maple bacon coffee porter we talked about, last snow is like a coconut chocolate beer, and no crust is this insane beer that tastes like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I kid you not. You drink it and you're like, oh, this tastes like peanut butter. And then kind of the aftertaste, you're like, that tastes like strawberry jelly. It's insane.
That was a fun one.
So you're going to kiss one, you're going to marry one, you're going to kill one. What's it going to be?
This is going to be easier than you thought, because they all have certain relations with me. So the no crust was done because my daughter at the time was eating nothing but Uncrustables. So that's what sparked that idea. And not killing, and I'm not marrying my daughter. So I'm going to kiss the no crust. Easy. That's for Riley. And then let's see. So, and then we got, I'm either killing maple bacon or killing last snow. Wow. Or killing marrying. I'm going to. I gotta marry maple bacon just because of what it did for the brewery. Having the Maple Bacon Day, it got us like national attention. So I think Last Snow is my favorite of all those beers to drink, and I'm killing it. So I didn't like it.
Dang, that is how much you love your daughter and you love your original beer.
Yeah. It's a mercy killing. That
is a mercy killing. Wow, I am impressed.
Well, you mentioned that the peanut butter beer came like this idea that you were eating a lot of Uncrustables.
Yeah.
Now, I have a theory that everything is a sandwich. Maybe not everything, but a lot of things, more things than you would say are sandwiches. Okay. So I say once the Uncrustable, right, is a peanut butter and jelly sandwich where they crimp the edges and it becomes enclosed. Now, it's still a sandwich. And I'm saying that's an empanada.
That's an empanada.
So...
yeah.
Are you with me here that an Uncrustable and an empanada are essentially the same thing?
I'm 100% with you.
Now, once you've embraced the empanada, once you've embraced it into your heart, right? Then things open up.
I feel good.
Yeah.
You feel okay?
I think he's joined the Church of Sandwich.
It's absolutely an empanada, and empanadas are way better than sandwiches to begin with. So. The Uncrustables are empanadas, are savory empanadas. We froze them, and then we would, so this was back then. I'd get home from the lounge at 3:00 in the morning. That would be readily available, so I'd throw it in the microwave for like 20 seconds, and then you'd have still frozen peanut butter, but molten lava jelly that would just explode and burn my face every time, and I wouldn't care. It was torture. So, and I still have good memories.
Oh, it's the pizza roll of experience. The pizza roll experience. Nice. Well, Ryan, you're a prince, man. Thank you for making the time. I appreciate you talking with us about our silliness, and we wish you the best of luck with the brewery.
Thank you. This was easy.
Nice to meet you.
See, told you.
Enjoy the beer.
Heavy lifting.
I will, definitely.
See you guys.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Ryan.
I can't wait to try this beer. That's all I got to say.
See, you're a beer hater, but how was Ryan?
Oh, he's a sweetheart. Yeah,
that guy's he's fantastic. He's literally one of my favorite people to talk
I'm
to.
not a hater. I'm not a beer hater. I'm just like a beer. Let's just say I'm mediocre when it comes to beer. I just like normal ass beer. Like I feel like it's been my experience that a lot of time craft beer tastes like soap. But
well, that's a common thing because people, they start using more hops, right? That the beeriness of it. And they thought, hey, this is a good thing. And there was this great article a few years ago that said something like, people who put too much hops in their beer are ruining craft beer for everybody else.
Yeah, it's like it sticks to the top of your mouth and it makes it taste bitter. And like then it's not good. It's just gross. And I think that like I've had enough of that kind of beer to make me think, okay, craft beer is just bad, you know?
There's a beer right now that I had with which I'm going to transition here, that I had with really great barbecue at Smoke and Dough. It's a margarita gose. So a gose is kind of like it's got like a salty finish to it. Believe it or not, it's a little bit like a margarita flavor already.
Mm-hmm.
So it's this really crisp beer, and I want to say it has a little bit of like a guava background flavor to it. So it's like this beer that paired great with something that's really heavy, like barbecue, you know?
No, well, I'm very sad to have learned that the reason why I like my beer so cold is probably because I'm trying to mask the flavor of it.
I only like this beer when it tastes more like fizzy water.
When it tastes like freezing cold, freezing cold ice water.
Like
anyway,
Perrier.
why don't you talk to us about Smoke and Dough, because that is the review that I was excited to hear about.
All right, so I was totally not expecting this. I was actually dropping off my daughter at a little birthday party over at Finca, you know, because she's 15 and some kid was having a 15s. And,
another fine establishment in West Kendall.
Another fine establishment in West Kendall. So I was like, I'm already out this far. I've already got my passport stamped. And I knew that the owner of Empanada Harry's was opening this barbecue place, and it had opened a couple weeks ago. So I went over there really honestly with low expectations because, you know, I don't know. It's because good barbecue is really hard to do. It's exceptionally hard to do. And so I went over there and I was basically killing like 2.5 hours. I said, well, I'll just order some beers and I'll just wait it out here. And as I'm ordering, you know, I see Harry comes out and says, hey, good to see you here. You know, can I put together a plate for you of like what we usually do is the family pack meal, but we'll do it for like 1 or 2. And, you know, barbecue is one of those things that you can't fake. Like you couldn't rush out and be like, oh, the food editor's here. Let's get the good barbecue. You know, it's like it takes 15 hours to make a brisket.
Right. So whatever's there is what you're getting.
Exactly. You can't, there's no way to mask it. So he brought out a bunch of these different things, this brisket, pulled pork, a sausage. And Amy, there was not a miss on the plate. Like I kept taking a bite and thinking, this is one of the best briskets I've had.
The sausage. Like I'm not even a sausage person, and the sausage that you had sounded amazing.
Yeah, there was he calls it a timba. So a timba, like Cubans have this saying that a timba is a piece of like guava paste with some kind of cheese, like cream cheese or like a yellow cheese, and you eat it like a little snack bite. Yeah. And that's a timba. So he had that idea. So he put white cheese and guava inside the sausage. And it sounds weird.
No, I'm on board with this.
Yeah, and it's not sweet at all, but it just adds like an extra background flavor. And really what I learned was that, you know, the guy is a baker. You know, Harry Coleman is a baker. So the guy understands heat and temperature, time, you know, that leaving something at too high a temperature or too low a temperature can affect the way something tastes. And like that adapts perfectly to barbecue because you really have to understand long, slow cooking, you know? And Amy, the brisket that he makes is perfectly tender. And brisket is tough because it's actually two muscle fibers, right? One that is much more lean and one that is fattier. And you have to be able to cook them together at the same time so that neither one dries out and they're both tender. And he nails it. And like once you nail a brisket, you can barbecue anything else. And
nice.
And honestly, I'm comfortable saying that it's easily some of the best barbecue in Miami.
Kendall for the win. All right, so talk to us about the James Beard semifinalists.
Oh, it's exciting, right? Like, so, every year the James Beard Awards, they highlight kind of the best in food, the folks who are doing the best restaurants and, the best chefs. And Miami had quite a list this year. I want to say that there were 11 people who were named in one way or the other.
Which person surprised you the most, and which person got you the most excited?
You know, I like that Miami had one of the best new restaurants. So there are 30 that are nominated in the semifinal, and only one can be like best new restaurant in the country. But it's kind of an honor to make that list.
Yeah, because that's a nationwide list, as opposed to Best Chef South, which divides the whole country up into smaller groups.
Right, exactly. And the one that made that list was Zitzum, the place owned by Paulo Zitzman that he started during the pandemic,
right,
when he basically lost his job, and he was making dim sum out of his condo and selling it
on
via
Instagram.
And so, like, there was this line of people in the garage of his condo, and he's handing out food from the back of his from his trunk. You know what I mean? And that's the most Miami thing. And then that became this little. He found a spot on Alhambra inside of a bank building. I mean, didn't even put a name on the door because he couldn't afford to do that. He just wanted to put that money into good food, and people found it. And
nice.
The dim sum is influenced from his like Colombian background. He's got a big it's like a big dumpling that's kind of shaped like an arepa, and it's stuffed with brisket, and it's really delicious.
Nice.
And it's all this mix of flavors. And he says, I'm not aiming for authentic. I'm aiming for authentic to me, like my experience in food that I love. And the James Beard folks agree that it's one of the places in the country that you got to pay attention to. I think that's really cool.
Well, to see all of the nominees, we'll put the link. Well, the link is on Miami.com, so you can go take a look. But Miami really did the most this year.
It really
all right,
did.
Carlos, to close, you have to tell us the story about what happened to our KFC flan.
Okay. So, the backstory was that there was this one KFC in Hialeah that was making its own flan. Why? Because back in the 60s and 70s, KFC was still one of those companies that was small enough that they encouraged individual franchisees to make their own food, to make their own individual dishes at a restaurant. So there was a chef that had been a Cuban immigrant there that would make it. He'd help make like fried shrimp and chicken fricassee, and chicken livers, things like that, kind of using the stuff that they already got at the restaurant to innovate other things. Well, the guy would innovate then before he'd create something called the staff meal, which is, staff gets together and they have some kind of meal before the restaurant opens or after it closes. And he created this flan using these giant pressure cookers and a recipe that he kind of innovated to be able to cook inside of it using this, the bain marie, which is kind of, there's water filling up, so it slow cooks, it's not direct heat on the flan. And it was this fantastic flan, Amy. It was this incredible flan. You've had it. It was totally
I've had it.
Perfectly.
Like anytime you were driving through Hialeah, you just stop there and you're like, I'm just going to get some flan.
Yeah. And it was better than a lot of people make it home because it didn't have that squishy texture that you get from, if you cook it too fast, it gets like these bubbles that makes it taste like a sponge, and that's horrible. But this was perfectly silky. So unfortunately, the guy that whose family had owned it since the 70s, he got sick. He got cancer right around the time of the pandemic. And even after he recovered, he was like, this is a lot for me. The pandemic is going. I've been sick and I recovered. He's 72 years old. And he said, I'm going to sell the restaurant. And he ended up selling it to this big corporation that owns something like 600 KFCs. Like they're like $1 billion in revenue company. And just as he was getting ready to step away, he later finds out that he also has pancreatic cancer, but that they caught it at an incredibly early stage. So his chances of recovery are very good. So he stepped away and he kind of left this legacy behind. But unfortunately, because of the pandemic, they've had a shortage of workers. because of the supply chain shortages, they haven't been able to get some of the ingredients they needed to make the flan, like, because that was kind of off book. It was kind of outside
Extra.
of what, it was outside of what KFC usually got delivered from their supplier. So, and they only had now really only one person left on staff who can make it, and they needed that person making chicken because it's KFC, it's Kentucky Fried Chicken, not Kentucky Flan Chicken, you know?
Well, is there a silver lining at least?
Well, the GM that I talked to there, who's been there for 30 years, believe it or not, she worked for Dan Yagoda, who was the owner for 30 years. She heard from her new bosses that she will be allowed to make the flan if they can get the ingredients and they can get the staff freed up to make the flan. And the flan is like a 6 to 8 hour process. So hopefully we have not seen the end of the famous
KFC flan.
So we'll keep an eye out for it. So, check my Twitter, and we'll see if
keep you updated on the flan.
I will keep you updated because I'm the KFC flan beat writer now, apparently.
All right.
Well, Amy, I think that's a show.
That is a show.
So we're going to thank Ryan for being on. Thank you for making time, and we will do it again next week.
See you next week.
Peace out.